province of Sweden, stretching up to the Arctic Circle, the Swedish Pulp Company carries on its activities, converting the riches of vast forests into sawn goods and wood pulp. The numerous mills of the company are located at various places along the Gulf of Bothnia. They comprise 15 sawmills, 5 groundwood mills, 7 sulphite pulp mills, 6 sulphate pulp mills. And further inland are the company's 9 hydroelectric power stations. The total annual production of these mills is about 900,000 tons of chemical and mechanical pulp and 200,000 standards of sawn wood goods. The patches on the map show the approximate areas of the standing timber owned by the company. In the aggregate, they make up an area equivalent to the greater part of central England, or if placed over the Low Countries of Europe, they would almost completely blot out Holland or Belgium. When winter comes to Norrland, the forest presents a beautiful picture of snow, the ground covered to a considerable depth by the white mantle, and the branches of the pine and spruce picked out in delicate tracery by the rime frost. Here the lumbermen work to provide the mills with raw materials. The exploitation of these vast forests is made easy by a network of rivers which afford a natural means of transporting the wood. During the winter, the trees are felled and hauled to the rivers and piles. In the spring, with the approach of warmer weather, when the ice on the rivers melts, the logs are automatically carried down the stream to the pulp mills and sawmills near the coast. Day after day, week after week, the lumbermen's saws topple the trees down into the snow. Lunchtime always provides a welcome pause. The motor has not displaced the horse in these northern forests. With the snow sometimes up to their shoulders, the hardy animals force their way through deep drifts to where the felled trees lie in order to haul them down to the riverbanks. These Norrland regions are the home of the nomad Lapp, and at times he engages himself with his picturesque reindeer for the work of hauling. But the horse is the chief draft animal. The masses of logs beside the frozen waters grow unceasingly as winter progresses. Here they are measured and stamped with the owner's mark. As the long night falls, the men return to the shacks. is how the lumbermen live in the snow-covered wastes throughout the prolonged Arctic winter. In some cases, the motor truck helps in transporting the logs to the waterside. The engine's power is first used to load the trucks. As the end of winter approaches, millions of logs are collected on the banks of countless streams, ready for the spring thaw. Gradually, the iron grip of winter relaxes on the rivers. The ice starts melting at the mouths, and the thaw works its way upstream. At last, the winter harvest of the forest may begin its journey to the mills on the coast. Raftsmen follow in boats to keep the logs on their way. Jams are released and stranded logs are returned to the current. Strength and skill are required to handle the boats in the rushing waters. To these men, shooting the rapids is all in the day's work. Where a stream is impracticable, flumes have been constructed to help the logs along. The angler playing his salmon sees the wealth of the forest hastening towards the sea. The logs pass by great hydroelectric stations, which supply the industries of North Sweden with power. Here we have the Hammarforsen power station of the Swedish Pulp company. On and on the logs go until finally they reach the sorting station. There, at rest behind the booms, the logs of the different owners are sorted out. Arrived at the sawmills, the timber floats on ponds until required. The logs are taken up into the mill by conveyors. First, all unbarked logs go to the barking plant. The bark is collected, freed from water in screw presses, and used as fuel for the furnaces. A slide conveyor takes the barked logs to another pond, where they are sorted into sizes. Another conveyor then takes them to the saws. Sawn timber is arranged in small stacks. These stacks are either transported to drying kilns or to the yards for outdoor seasoning. In the yards, massive bridge cranes seize the stacks and carry them along together with the men to handle them. In the course of time, when fully seasoned, the sawn goods are ready for shipment. The timber is first trimmed to even lengths and then loaded on the steamers, either direct or from lighters. Let us now follow the timber that is intended for conversion into mechanical pulp or groundwood. The logs are first of all barked clean, and then they may be stacked for future use or go direct to the grinders. In the lower part of the grinders, huge stones grind the wood down into fibers. On discharge from the grinders, the fibers flow in a constant stream to the screens, where the coarser fibers are eliminated. The screened pulp is then converted into a continuous web, which finally is cut into sheets. After weighing, the piles of sheets are conveyed to large hydraulic presses and made up into bales, the last step in the manufacture of groundwood for export purposes. We shall now see something of the sulphite process in one of the Swedish pulp company's mills. The logs are cut by machine into billets of convenient size, which are sent to the barking drums. From there, they move on to the chippers, where rotating knives cut them up into small pieces. After screening, these chips proceed to storage bins at the top of the digester house. Whence they are charged into the digesters. In the cooking process, the cellulose fibers are liberated from other constituents of the wood. Digestion completed, the fibers are conveyed to coarse screens which eliminate any undigested knots. The fibers then pass in suspension over so-called ripplers, where the heavier impurities sink to the bottom. Sulphite pulp, intended for paper manufacture, is exported either unbleached or bleached. In the former case, it goes direct after finished screening to the drying machines for drying and baling. If the sulphite pulp is to be bleached, it is first submitted to a whole series of operations including bleaching, washing and screening before being considered ready to meet the consumer's needs. Let us take a look inside the new bleaching plant at Svartvit, which represents the last word in this field. The Swedish pulp company's total annual production of sulphite pulp is about 350,000 tons. Bleached pulp is produced for paper-making purposes as well as for rayon manufacture. The company's Svartvit mill having recently been reconstructed for the production of high-grade viscose pulp as well as paper pulp. An elaborate technical equipment is required in order to turn out a pulp which in every respect meets the silk manufacturer's highly exacting requirements. A steady supply of wood of suitable quality, an abundance of clean water of high chemical purity, and a thorough technical control of the whole manufacturing process are three factors of paramount importance in modern rayon pulp production. For obvious reasons, the details of this intricate manufacture cannot be disclosed here. This manufacture is essentially a continuous process and a highly mechanized one, apart from its chemical aspects. From tower to tower, from machine to machine, on and on, the pulp flows through the system, purified to an ever-increasing degree until at last the desired stage is reached. No haphazard methods are allowed in this industry. Every phase of manufacture is meticulously supervised. every bale of pulp carefully is examined before being shipped. It usually takes the rayon manufacturer a full week to convert the snow-white pulp into the coveted silk yarn. In other words, any fault in the pulp not discovered in the pulp mill may wreck a whole week's production in the silk plant. No wonder then that the Svartvit mill management, who wants to build up a high reputation and a lasting goodwill for their Pulp Coast brand, has spared neither money nor efforts in order to attain a product of the highest possible uniformity. Day and night, the chemists draw their samples to check the chemical and physical constants of the pulp. Viscosity, alpha cellulose, moisture, ash content, swelling properties, resin content, copper number, and many other characteristics are constantly established and watched to ensure a pulp quality that is fully up to the standards carefully set by the consumers. You will now see a few bird's-eye views of mills belonging to the Swedish Pulp Company. First, we have some sulphite mills. Förbergs, Svartvit, SCA-film, Nyhamn, Skönvik, Sund, and Kramfors. Then comes a number of sulphate mills. Munksund, Obbola, Nensjö, Brånö, Sandarne, and Östrand. The company's 6 sulphate mills have a combined annual production of about 350,000 tons. One of these, the Östrand mill, is the largest in Europe, turning out 140,000 long tons a year. Huge stocks of pulp timber accumulated for winter use. The store of limestone burnt in the company's own kilns makes an imposing pile. The Swedish Pulp Company imports coal in vast quantities. During the summer, the timber is taken from the water and cranes arrange it in large stacks. In due course, the logs are conveyed into the mill. They first go to revolving drums to be freed from all outside bark before proceeding to the chippers. The chips are then passed through rotating screens in order to obtain uniformity of size. Band conveyors carry the chips from the woodroom to bins located above the digesters. A simple operation opens the bottom of a bin to charge the digester, whereupon the cooking liquor is added and the steam turned on. Cooking control is ensured by means of ingenious instruments. Each of the company's mills has its own laboratory for control of pulp during manufacture. There is also a central laboratory located at Östrand with the most up-to-date equipment. New processes and modifications of existing processes are here constantly experimented with. Samples from the company's pulp mills are also regularly examined to ensure the highest possible uniformity of quality. A test of prime importance is that for strength. The pulp is made into paper and the finished paper subjected to thorough testing. The whole paper-making process is here reproduced on a small scale. There are appliances for determining all conceivable strength qualities as well as other important characteristics. Here we see the laboratory staff making experimental cookings, another important task with which the central laboratory is charged. Trials are made with various liquors and different qualities of wood. Testing and research at the central laboratory ensure the maintenance of a high standard of quality and improvement wherever possible. Let us now revisit the Östrand mill and travel in an elevator from top to bottom of the digester building. As may be seen, the enormous digesters extend through several floors. From the digesters, the pulp and lye go to the diffusers. Connection between digester and diffuser is by an enormous traveling pipe. The bottom valve of the digester is opened and the contents of the digester are blown over the pipe to the diffusers, where the pulp is separated from the cooking liquor and thoroughly washed. The washed pulp proceeds to the screening division. Knots and coarse fiber are removed in a series of rotating screens. After passing through revolving deckers which remove surplus water, the pulp goes to so-called collar gangs for defibration. The pulp passes continuously from one collar gang to another, rubbing between two revolving round lava stones, and a flat stone breaks up the bundles of unseparated fibers and also makes the fibers more flexible. From the collar gangs, the pulp goes onto the wires of a drying machine, where it is formed into a web. Next, its surplus water is removed before it passes into the drying machine proper. At this mill, drying is done by warm air, which provides a more even and more gentle drying than the old system with hot cylinders. In the fan drying room, the pulp web is subjected to the action of hot air constantly in motion. As the web leaves the drying chamber, it is cut into sheets, which are piled ready for baling in hydraulic presses. The trademark of the Swedish Pulp Company is embossed on the bales while they are in the press. A conveyor takes the bales to the warehouse, where they are stored ready for shipment. Having completed the process of conversion from the stately trees of the northern forests to become the basis of paper and rayon in distant parts of the world, the pulp is finally taken out to the wharf. Night and day, steamers are loading the Swedish Pulp Company's products to the ends of the earth. With its load of Swedish pulp, the steamer casts off and makes for the open sea. Europe, Africa, America, Asia, or Australia, whatever its destination, wherever paper is used, the pulp of the Swedish forests, produced and baled under the trademark of the Swedish Pulp Company, is known and appreciated for its first-class quality.